I've got a complimentary play coming up in just a moment on the Mid-American Conference game between Ohio and Miami of Ohio. Now, don't laugh. You guys out there that watch me regularly, you know that I'm no big fan of the Mid-American Conference, but you know last week I gave you an easy winner last Thursday with Ohio pounding Western Michigan, so what the hell? I'm on a roll in the MAC. Might as well keep coming back to it, right? A quick word about college basketball before we go any further. The season, of course, tipped off last night, and I wasn't able to do a video report yesterday, but let me just give you my quick spiel because it's a little different when it comes to college basketball. But the general crux of it is this. At the start of any season, no matter the sport, it's the only time we have the advantage over the odds makers because they don't know anything more about the teams and what to expect from them than you or I. So we have the advantage. But that advantage is magnified in college basketball for two reasons. The sheer number of teams and because there is no, per se, exhibition season. There is no preseason. And that's a beautiful thing. But it's also a bad thing as well, because it makes our job as gamblers and handicappers even more difficult. But then again, because of the sheer number of teams, you can find some real gems every single night on the card. Now, normally I would say the first 2 or 3 weeks is where you have the advantage against the odds makers. But in college basketball, that advantage really extends anywhere from the first 4 to maybe even 6 weeks of the season because you have so much non-conference action, because you have so many preseason tournaments and holiday tournaments as well. Now, there are some traps to be aware of. You've got to be aware that of course, you have all the Power 5 conference teams playing the little sisters of the poor, so naturally they're going to have inflated numbers. But my advice, and what I do as a handicapper, which of course is the same thing as being a gambler in my boat, is that I always concentrate the most where the odds makers concentrate the least. Skipping the bigger marquee games, skipping the big Power 5 games against the little sisters of the poor where the numbers are simply absurd. Unless, of course, I like an underdog, because there's no value on those games. Now, last night, there are 2 games I want to talk about. One that I had, one that Ray Chadwick had, which illustrate exactly my point. Now, in my case, I had a top-rated 15-dime best bet on Nevada at home against BYU. Now, Nevada is a team that I followed religiously last year. I must have used them as a best bet at least a dozen times last year. They were that good for me. I was familiar with the personnel. I was familiar with the transfers that they had coming in, and I was familiar with the recruiting class as well. And I also find that their beat writer has been like money in the bank for me as my eyes and ears following him. It's almost like having a conduit into the team. So when I released a play against BYU yesterday, it was 13, and that line dropped to 12. And if you got the play from me yesterday, which was a top-rated 15-dime release, which you got for half price off, I said in the very last sentence that I thought even at that price it was a bargain, because if this game was being played 3 weeks from now, Nevada would have been a 17-point favorite. Awful first half by Nevada. Second half they got it together. They won by 16 points. Again, I said they should have been a 17-point favorite. Case in point with Ray Chadwick last night. Duke and Kentucky. Duke is 2-point underdog. How badly did Duke beat Kentucky? They won the game by 347 points. Of course, I'm embellishing it. They only won it by 480 points. The point is, they won it handily. How wrong were the odds makers on that game? Because they had no idea what to expect from Coach K or Coach Cal's teams. What were they going to judge in basing that line? What they read in the preseason media guides? No. How could you set an effective line on that game? That shows you how dumb and how bad and how soft numbers can be early in the college basketball season. So there's money to be made, but you have to be careful. Now, tonight, of course, the big play would be from Tommy Brunson, who's going for winning day number 15 out of 21, top-rated 100-dime winner, number 9 out of 11. His MAC game of the year, part number 3, Toledo and Northern Illinois. Part number 2 was Buffalo, 48-14 over Kent State last night. You got it for over half price off. Part number 3 goes tonight. $10 bettors have made a little over exactly $6,800 the past 20 days. You get it for over half price off by using coupon code Tommy, his first name. All other promos and discount codes, etc. over on the homepage. Let me talk about the other MAC game tonight, the game between Ohio and Miami of Ohio. This has been a one-sided series as Ohio has won 11 of the last 12 games, going 8-3-1 against the spread in that stretch. They've won the last 4 meetings, in fact, straight up. Last year, they scored the final 17 points to win 45-28 at home. As I talked about Ohio last week, this is a team that has really cranked up its running game the last month or so. And last week at Western Michigan, I went with them for 2 reasons. One, because they had run the ball so effectively in their previous 2 games, scoring over 50 points in both of those wins. And 2, Western Michigan was going with a highly touted quarterback, but he was a 3-star recruit, which was good for Western Michigan, but he happened to be a freshman making his first start. Well, Western Michigan helped things by turning the ball over 6 times, but the Ohio defense did its part as well, forcing 6 turnovers, holding Western Michigan to 270 yards, and rolling in that game 59-14. Prior to that, they had won 52-14 at home against Ball State, 49-14 against Bowling Green. So I erred when I said they had scored 50 or more in 3 straight games, almost 50 or more, 49 plus in 3 straight games. They've won 5 of their last 6, and their only loss in that stretch was 24-21 at Northern Illinois. Miami of Ohio is coming off a 51-42 loss at Buffalo, a game in which they at one point trailed late in the third quarter, 42-28. They come back and they tie the game, only to see Buffalo take control once again in a barn burner, highly entertaining, high-scoring game, and eventually pull away to win it. The week before, they lost 31-30 in double overtime to Army, and they could not stop the Black Knights' ground game in that one. Now, it is true, it's very hard to stop Army's option attack, but this is one of the problems with Miami of Ohio. They do not stop the run well, and Ohio, the Bobcats, run the ball extremely well. Nathan Rourke, their quarterback, and their 2 top running backs have combined to run for 1,842 yards on the season. I did a little math before starting this report. They've combined to average 6 yards a carry. Now, Rourke is not your typical option-type quarterback. He can throw the ball a little bit as well, but that's a dangerous team that can run the ball. And a team that can run the ball that effectively is also one that can chew up a lot of time on the clock. Now, Miami of Ohio, the Red Hawks, have a very good quarterback in Gus Ragland. But this is a team that has struggled to stop anybody defensively this season. This is a team that I think is going to struggle here tonight, putting points on the board. I think Ohio is a team, even though it has a big look-ahead game with Buffalo coming up, I think Ohio gets the job done tonight. The reason I did not use Ohio, it's at no man's land point spread, 5.5. So you're basically saying they've got to win the game by a touchdown on the road, no less. So I do like Ohio, but that's the way I'm going to go tonight. The other MAC game tonight, I handicapped the game between Toledo and Northern Illinois, and it's a tough game. I don't know which way to go in this one. I mean, it's tempting to take Toledo plus the 4 points, but this Northern Illinois team has a damn good defense. The Huskies don't have much of an offense, that's the thing. But, you know, they went to BYU 2 weeks ago and they won 7-6, right? Then they come home, they take care of business 36-26 at Akron. When I say they come home, meaning they came back to their own conference. Now they're back at home. This Toledo team, yeah, they look good, 45-13 at home against Ball State. But keep in mind, their regular quarterback is out. They're going with a sophomore at quarterback, Eli Peters. Good thing is, last week against Ball State, 25 for 34, 327 yards and 2 touchdowns. 4 interceptions, however, in that game. So I lean a little toward Northern Illinois in this contest. If I had to play both of these games, I think it's an interesting teaser possibility, taking Ohio down to pick'em in a 2-team 6-point teaser and taking Northern Illinois down to +2. But I think in games like these, where you're not 100% sure, the biggest mistake you can make as a gambler is to play a 2-team teaser, because if you're not convinced of either one of the sides, don't try to hedge your bets by playing a teaser. Big mistake. And I'm a guy who loves teasers as much as Shawn Michaels does here at the site. So I think you just roll with Ohio or you don't play either game. That's it. Good luck. Talk to you again tomorrow.